Hello everyone and welcome to game 3 in this series, TheCoolMan versus AxCrank here on Daybreak. And TheCoolMan now with a very sizable lead in this series, 2-0. Will he be able to make it 3 in a row for the hat trick, or am I casting these games out of order? I don't know. I'm watching this alongside with you, and some people often wonder, why don't I just change the order of the games when I upload? Because sometimes I talk about the previous game, and that would absolutely just ruin the rest of the games, because you know I cast it out of order and it doesn't make any sense. Alright, we've seen AxCrank do this in the previous 2 games. He is building that pylon close to home in order to get that probe back to mining faster. Also, that does mean that he delays his scouting probe just a little bit, but scouting right now wouldn't reveal very much anyway. So AxCrank is hoping to get perhaps a faster forge fast expansion with a nexus first, with this one extra probe back on the mineral patches. Let's take a look at TheCoolMan. TheCoolMan sitting here as the red Zerg on the top right-hand side of the map. And oh, AxCrank is playing differently this time around. Not going for a forge fast expansion at all. Instead, going for a gateway. So gateway is down. Assimilator is down as well. We should be seeing a pylon come in just a moment, followed by that cybernetics core. Now this strategy, this build is much more common against a Terran player than a Zerg. It almost feels as though AxCrank at this time is experimenting with something new, since the previous 2 games did not go his way at all. Now, this does mean that AxCrank is going to be a little bit ahead in terms of the tech. He is going to get his cybernetics core out significantly faster, but all TheCoolMan is going to do is he's going to scout out with this overlord, spot that there is no nexus, and then he's going to realize that he can sit on 2 bases. And more importantly, he can then utilize this overlord to move it inside the base here, figure out what AxCrank is doing, and then get the necessary spine crawlers or spore crawlers. AxCrank so far still running off of one gas right now, doesn't have his second assimilator up, and we should be seeing the warp gate now getting chrono boosted. So there you go, a stalker now being chrono boosted, warp gate now being chrono boosted as well. Don't quite agree with this warp gate or chrono boosting of this one particular stalker. Getting that stalker 10 seconds out faster, not gonna do very much of anything, as the overlord now gonna park itself off over here. Yeah, that stalker getting out a little bit faster, really not going to do much. Perhaps chrono boosting out probes, getting a faster economy, that would be better there. But then again, sometimes you want that stalker route, as that stalker will give you a little bit of map control. Zerglings are now on the move here. We can see one stalker wandering around, and both players are still trying to get a proper feel for each other. Now, AxCrank is playing a little bit more of a old school style game, not going that forge fast expansion, and AxCrank is banking on the fact that TheCoolMan may not remember the timings well. If he doesn't know when additional units could be coming in, that could really put a dampen or could just damper the really throw off TheCoolMan's game. TheCoolMan is trying to slash away at this one particular gateway here. The gateway is recharging its shields. No real damage has been dealt as of yet, as the probe now taking a bit of damage. And there you see the Zerglings once again going back to town, trying to take down this gateway, but now knowing that it can't really do much of anything, as a stalker getting off some shots on some fleeing Zerglings. No stutter step there, allowing those units to return back. Now, TheCoolMan is sitting on 32 drones. Meanwhile, we do see 28 probes coming in from AxCrank. And all of this, AxCrank is still not training up any workers. Okay, he is training up workers once again, now getting up that warp gate tech, but I am a little concerned about what he's trying to do. He could be trying to go 5-gate or 5-gate warp gate with the robotics facility, perhaps even utilizing a warp prism. And I would believe it's a warp prism right now, as Zergling's now trying to test that front door. There is a force field in a beautiful position. Stalkers, a whole bunch of Zerglings will get pushed back here, as this warp gate is taking a lot of damage. Another force field does come into play there, and now this warp gate down to 303 hit points needs to be very, very careful. I don't know how you have a careful warp gate, but that is going to be the case here as the Zerglings unable to get their way through this double sentry one stalker location here. Now we are going to see a warp prism come in. That is what I was expecting, since Crank was only running off of one assimilator. But how much does he really expect to do? He has a good amount of gas. He needs to warp in more sentries still, and on a map like Daybreak, it is often very, very difficult to get into the right location. Zealots are now on the move as well. We're going to see some proxy pylons being set up, and this roundabout path could catch TheCoolMan off guard. You can see that the warp gate is slowly recharging those shields. Back over here, double sentries. Is it going to be enough, though, as the units are now making their way in? Oh, a hatchery just placed down. And what is this doing? The warp prism has one stalker, and now warping in a whole round of stalkers as well. Those zealots are upgraded or are not upgraded at all, as the zealots are just simply making a mad run inside the base now. How much damage could be had? The zealots going straight after the queen, as more and more units are now warping in. The queens simply running away as they are faster on creep. And now this is a zealot versus a zergling battle, and if Crank actually had level 1 weapons upgrade on these zealots, I would give the battle to Crank. But instead, the battle is going quickly in favor of TheCoolMan. TheCoolMan just dancing around with those queens, but as I say this, the queens are getting taken down, and this is going very, very poorly. Will the TheCoolMan be able to get this warp prism? No, it will not. It will get taken down here, and you can see the zealots are still causing problems. Warp prism low on hit points, still warping in more and more zealots here, and this is an old school StarCraft, original classic vanilla StarCraft strategy of just using mass zealots. Zealots versus Zerglings. The Zerglings will be able to get a surround here, as the zealots are trying to slice and dice their way through. There are now a lot of sentries. You can see that this base is pretty much gonna get destroyed here in just a moment. Crank now warping in a new round as the sentries are in position, and a beautiful force field trapping a lot of units. Mutalisks are now trying to make their way in, but the Mutalisks are being forced to deal with sentries, and the sentries are not horrible at fighting against Mutalisks. The sentries still fighting back. Drones now coming in. There comes another force field as Mutalisk after Mutalisk is getting destroyed, all in order to try and take down that one warp prism. Zealots now fighting back. A beautiful effort by Crank, but a beautiful hold by TheCoolMan means that TheCoolMan should be able to get back in this game. He is running up on 3 bases. He could get another queen down here, and now with Mutalisk as map control, he should be able to engage and force Crank to sit inside his base. Mutalisks now quickly making their way inside the main base here. However, there are stalkers in position. One Mutalisk will get taken down, but as long as these stalkers are not pressing out across the map, TheCoolMan is happy. He knows that he can perhaps drone freely, but what is this? A proxy pylon was set up, and in comes some zealots. Zealots do not have any upgrades at all. Will they be able to take down this queen? No, it looks like it will be able to do so. The queen has run out of creep, run out of room, as the zealots now look to finish off another hatchery. It is going to be 2 bases to 2. Is there going to be enough Mutalisks in time? Down to 200 some odd hit points, 100, 107. Is it going to be enough? The queen does get a transfusion off, and the transfusion is just enough. 25 hit points left on that hatchery. A last second transfusion, saving 350 resources and allowing continual mining with 12 drones here, and that could be it. TheCoolMan with a beautiful hold there, now in a beautiful position once more. As this game goes longer, I think TheCoolMan will come out ahead. The drones, the economy that TheCoolMan is able to establish now that he's also taking down many of Crank's units, is starting to show. Infestation Pit, Roach War now coming into play. We are going into Blink with level 2 weapons upgrade. We're adding in 2 more gateways to spend all of those resources, but I can't imagine how Crank is going to be able to slow down the Zerg economy. He's already done so much, and he is still just neck and neck as another pylon does get taken out there. All right, new proxy pylon being reestablished, just seconds away from where the previous one was. It looks like this hatchery is gonna fall, and wow, a beautiful turnaround here. This hatchery does need to will get lost here, as the broodlings not able to do very much of anything. We can see a third base now being established by Crank. TheCoolMan does have that 20 supply advantage. TheCoolMan now looking to go into another hatchery here, and TheCoolMan may just try to cut his losses. At this point, he still does have his third hatchery. He could perhaps simply just out macro his opponent with a sheer number of roaches. All right, pathogen glands now coming in. Oh, overlords will get shot down here. Mutalisk now flocking back, trying to get back home, trying to save it. This is not working out well, as the force fields do come in, and Crank looks like he will actually be able to fight here in a very, very favorable position and take... No, what is this? Mutalisk now coming back over. Are the Stalkers going to finish out the Mutalisk? It looks like TheCoolMan is going to end up losing those Mutalisks here. Queen's trying to engage as well, but Crank in a beautiful spot here, and there is the GG. Well played, as Crank takes this game. And I apologize. Apparently the games were uploaded out of order, but I hope you guys still enjoyed it. The third game in this series, perhaps it wasn't a best of 3, just a 3-game set. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening.